and welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing and where Roberto continues to pick at his eye because there's something stuck in it. And now, your host. She has actually been mothering me the last 5 minutes about poking at my eye, Mama Romina. And now, your second host, here to incite rebellion and overturn the capital, our own Katniss Everdeen, Audrey Ember. And your final host, the man who is probably just going to do a Nick Fury impression for the next couple of days and just get a damn eye patch, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience.
Amazing as usual.
Thank you.
I'll give that one a 10-10. Absolutely.
All right. Excellent.
Only a 10.
Excellent.
So when did this eye problem begin?
Like a day ago. I think that I made the tragic mistake of sleeping face down, and now I'm paying the consequences.
That's pretty intense. Couldn't that turn into like an infection or something?
I mean, yeah. When was the last
case,
time you washed your pillowcase? Like, it's all right if you don't want to answer.
These are pretty fresh. No, actually, these are like pretty freshly washed. These are actually pretty freshly washed.
I feel like you just had bad luck.
These are relatively, it's just bad luck. And the thing is, I think like the first part was there was like a particle, so that got taken care of, and it's like, okay, cool. But now it's less irritating than it's been, because at this point I think it's just the eyelash now. So yeah, I'll live. I'll figure it out, or I'll go to like an eye doctor or something if it gets bad enough.
So what are you drinking there, Roberto? Is that sangria?
No, I wish it was sangria. I wish. It's cranberry juice.
Oh, close enough, I guess.
You get to be my age. You get to be ancient, and then you need to drink the cranberry juice.
Nice. I didn't know that was an ancient drink.
Yeah, it's
It is if Roberto's drinking it.
Yeah, it's like one day this.
What was that?
Like, no, it's the Yoda thing. It's like, when 900 years you reach, look as good you will not.
Dressed in green, talking in green.
Wait, Romina, we should explain to Roberto the thing you're talking about with
Oh, right. So Roberto, you're Timon, and I'm Simba, and Audrey is Pumbaa. Have you looked on Twitter yet?
No, so Romina tweeted out a GIF for our podcast, like she does every time, and she chose a Lion King one. And then Leela commented and said, "Who's who?" And Romina and I literally like commented the same guesses at basically the same time, which was just beautiful. Because the thought process that went into that.
Okay.
It was the same. Yeah.
I mean, I guess if these are the three that we're going with, but in The Lion King, I would be Zazu. We know that.
Yeah. I mean, if it was The Lion King as a whole, I think we can agree that you would be Zazu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I would still be Simba.
I'd still be the pig. Actually, maybe I'd be one of the hyenas. That sounds fun.
Wow. Well, are we just basing this off of what's fun or what matches their personality?
There's a chance I'd be Scar.
Ooh.
Oh, I knew this was coming. All right.
There is a chance I'd be Scar.
Let me grab my tea.
Except I wouldn't have let the hyenas take over the Pride Lands. That's a stupid idea. That's terrible. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Hitler didn't let Nazis take over.
Best comparison.
I realized that was the imagery that they were going for. Honestly, I do realize that was the imagery they were going for, especially with the goose-stepping hyenas. I get it. But stick with me, and you'll never go hungry again. Like that's.
Well, now I want to watch The Lion King.
I literally can do Scar like as be prepared. Like I can literally do like I think most of the I probably can do most of the song in his voice. I mean, But we'll get copyright claim.
Dang.
Right. So you're gonna be Scar or Zazu.
Possibly. Yeah.
In the live action or the old one?
No,
I haven't even
excuse me.
seen
We
the
don't
live
talk
action.
about the live action.
I haven't even
What
seen
is
it.
that?
Dan?
Yeah.
What is that?
I mean, I agree.
Plus in isn't it in the live action was Scar not he didn't have a black mane. He was just a regular lion, right?
Honestly,
I haven't
don't
seen it.
remember.
I mean, from when I saw like photos of it. I don't know. I'm ignorant. So if anybody wants to tell us who has
Would
seen
you
it.
believe me if I told you I haven't seen the live action Aladdin either?
Yeah. I don't has anybody seen that? Audrey, have you?
Oh, is that the one with Will Smith? He's blue?
Yeah, Will Smith is in
That's
it.
all
yeah.
I know. I haven't actually seen
Okay,
it.
yeah, no.
I just know that Will Smith is blue.
I mean, I would have rather just had a second Prince of Persia movie, honestly. I think that movie
Yeah.
got a bad rap. I think it was fine.
Well, I didn't see the live action Aladdin, so I can't.
No, I'm talking about Prince of Persia.
Oh.
Prince of Persia got
No,
a
I
bad
did
rap.
like Prince of Persia. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
No,
like,
it's
it should have got a
awesome.
sequel. I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah. But it's one of those things. It's one of those movies that just kind of goes under, like John Carter, where it's just like, yeah, this is great. But for some reason, they're just like, oh yeah, we're just not going to spend. We're going to spend $200 million on making the movie, but then we're not going to spend anything on the marketing.
Yeah.
Because
that always
we don't
bothered
watch
me.
anyone to watch this $200 million movie.
I think that's where they've gotten lazy and they've gotten cowardly, is they just rely on star power to do the marketing for them, or they only want to market it if they can market a big name star. They don't want to rely on anything regarding storytelling or originality or concepts or theatrics or production or any of that to sell the movie. They need a star or a starlet to sell the movie. They need a name. So stupid, lazy.
Otto in the chat
cowardly.
says that the live action Cinderella was fantastic. Did you guys see that one?
I agree, Otto. I agree. I think it was amazing. I think it was well done. I think it honored a lot of things. I also like how it borrowed from the live action Cinderella with Brandy, with the multiracial cast in some ways, in the best ways, without pandering. But I do think in many ways, and it might just be my bias toward being infatuated with Drew Barrymore, that Ever After was a better retelling of the Cinderella story in a realistic way that was also empowering without pandering. But
I think
again,
this-
I'm predisposed to anything with Drew Barrymore.
This brings up a really great point. So this week on Twitter, there was some drama involved because people wanted to know who was the best couple, if it was Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler or Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. Which I don't even know why that is a question.
Because of 50 First Dates versus Polly, and of course 50 First Dates is
Polly,
known as a better
what do you mean
movie.
Polly? Jennifer Aniston?
Yeah.
Polly?
Polly was Jennifer Aniston.
Is with Ben Stiller.
Oh,
not
you're
Adam
right.
Sandler.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The
No, it
Wedding
was
Singer.
another movie.
The Wedding
It was
Singer?
another movie that they were together. They've done two movies together. One of them was that murder mystery one that was like on Netflix. I forgot what it was called. And then the other one was I forgot the name of it too. But again, there's no question about it. I mean, clearly it's Drew Barrymore.
And Adam Sandler.
And Adam
Of course
Sandler.
it is. Of course
Yeah.
it is. It's
Right.
not
Wait,
even
why?
a question. And 50 First Dates is my favorite rom-com, and it is my favorite first date movie, honestly.
See, exactly, because for those reasons, Audrey.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to watch those, I
Are you
guess.
disagreeing with this?
Guys in the chat,
I can't have an argument there.
guys in the chat, like, best first date movie is 50 First Dates, hands down. It's like, I mean,
Oh yeah.
honestly, you're gonna get a second date if you watch that. If you could do that as your first date movie, that's like easy.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
just saying, it's true. It's objectively true. It's like,
Well, it's a great movie. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie. It's lighthearted, but it's also got a little bit of like thinky feels. You know,
heartstrings.
like it's just
Thinky feels.
Yeah.
Heartstrings. Nothing but heartstrings.
Yeah,
Just
it's just
all
fun.
of them.
there's
All
just
the
enough
feels.
Rob Schneider in it that it's tolerable. Just kidding.
All the feels.
It's great. It's got penguins. It's got penguins.
I'm so confused right now.
Look,
We got penguins?
here's the thing.
Now
so
I need to watch this.
I think Wedding Singer just set the bar real high for that couple, you know?
Sure.
So it's just, I mean, that just kind of created.
I think nostalgia is just what carries that one. Nostalgia carries that one. I think that
True.
The cuter couple, the better movie, to be fair though, the quality of acting because of where they were in their careers and the difference in their careers makes a difference. And so by the time that Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler did 50 First Dates versus when they did Aniston and Sadler did The Wedding Singer,
Right.
different level of ability and career at that point. And so so to be fair, I understand people's romantic nostalgic attachment to The Wedding Singer and them as a couple. And for a lot of people, Jennifer Aniston is the girl, but nah.
Right, yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
It's
Drew Barrymore's where
Drew
it's at.
Barrymore and Adam Sandler. It's like straight up and down. Straight up and down.
Yeah. Oh man, Juanford comes in here asking about Twilight.
Oh hell no! Get out
troll.
my
This
house.
is a troll.
What?
Out my house. No. But I do have a
Leela
better
in the chat
appreciation now. By the way,
she's commenting about how amused Audrey looks right now.
I have no idea what they're talking about.
Kristen Stewart.
Talking about movies.
I by the way,
What?
Kristen Stewart grew up, and I'm good with like her now. I don't blame her for the stilted writing of that franchise. She's a talented enough actress. She got a lot of crap. Kristen Stewart got a lot of crap over the years, but I think that had more to do with the Twihards themselves than anything regarding her. So her actual abilities as an actress.
Yeah.
And I think she got typecast a lot because I think in the Snow White thing, they basically wrote it as if Bella was in Snow White. And I think they just typecasted her because they decided for themselves that was the limits of her acting range instead of actually trying that out. And so,
sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, if you see her on Hot Ones, if you see her thing on Hot Ones, it's actually like funny as hell. Sorry, go ahead, Audrey.
I think Audrey's got a little something to say.
No, I'm gonna go a little off topic, but
No, please.
Today was for some reason I was looking up like Greta Gerwig because I really liked Little Women and stuff, and I was thinking, I don't know any female directors who weren't actresses.
Oh,
first.
Snap.
That goes for a lot of directors, though, too.
Is that like I don't know? I was just thinking because I was also listening to Jodie Foster, and I was like, she also is an actress.
Yeah, I think that goes for a lot of directors too.
Ron
I
Howard.
mean, like, Ron Howard. There's a lot. I think it's a pretty normal thing. Or if they aren't directors, then they become producers. Like a different branch of being in filmmaking. I think what it is about females in particular is because, like, now we are seeing more females who are just becoming directors, and it's no big deal.
But you need an in.
Right. So
back then.
So from like Jodie Foster's era, for example, like back then, it was a lot harder for a female to be a director, to really be anything but an actress. I mean, it's not that they didn't exist.
And specifically,
it's not that they didn't exist. There's plenty of
starlet.
female directors. There's plenty of female directors from like the 60s and even the 50s. Like, they're not unheard of. They exist. But to be famous, I mean, even as a male, it was difficult, you know?
That's fair. It wasn't prestigious. It wasn't prestigious to be behind the scenes, and you weren't really...
as it was to be in front of it.
That's true.
Yeah. I think it's just like the development of cinema, but
you can now aspire to be a famous filmmaker,
right?
Without having to be famous first.
Yeah, exactly.
But you guys know any like girl directors? Just because I've been looking them up recently, because I don't know, I've been curious. Off the
I
top
have
of
to-
your head.
Off the top of my head, no. But it's like one of those things, if I really put my brain
Yeah.
power into going through
I'm gonna look
the
it
Yeah,
old filing cabinet, I might be able to come up with one or two.
Sure. So Angelina Jolie, she's actually one of my favorites. She's an amazing director. If you haven't seen any of her stuff yet,
Wait, Audrey, did you mean specifically still that wasn't first?
Oh, did
when
you
were
mean-
still on that? Were we still on that wasn't
I mean, that was my
an
question,
actress?
but
Yeah.
I'm.
So she's still
oh, so you,
female director.
I was just
that,
curious.
Yeah. 'Cause
That's
I know
not
plenty
an
of female
actress as
directors.
well.
That's not an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, there is. I forget what her name is, but I like her stuff. She did the Babadook,
Ooh.
Oh.
so she's a really great director. Jennifer Kent, I think that's what her name is. Kent? No, I think it's
No.
Kent. Last name is
People up.
Kent, I think. But yeah, she's a great director. Like, I mean,
they're
if you've seen the
very-
Jennifer Kent, that's her name. So the Babadook,
Okay.
Jennifer Kent, she's a great director. So that's all she does. She's the director.
There are
Nice.
very few female showrunners.
You know, I
She's
don't
also
really
an
know too much about
actress. Romina, I looked it up. She's also an
TV.
actress.
Oh, is she an actress?
Yes.
Oh, well,
You may.
but is she mainly an actress though?
I don't know. I just
may-
Googled it. And it
Maybe
said
you should bring
actress,
this up
writer,
in a video,
director.
Audrey.
Well, I think she's mainly a director though, Audrey.
Her career began as an actress.
Oh, her
Working
career
in
began
television.
as an actress. I see. Let's see. When was
See,
her
this
first
is a
thing?
real.
Oh, see,
I
she was
had
doing
not
other-
thought of this before, but now that I'm
I
thinking
don't think
about
anyone
it,
has. I mean, this could be a thing, Audrey. This could be something you might address in a video.
why? I mean, we know why.
Think about how many people haven't thought of this. Like, I mean, and me and Romina, between us, we're film aficionados extraordinaire. We consider ourselves robust film buffs, and yet we cannot come up with a sufficient answer to your question. We cannot.
I've stumped you guys for the
Romina's
first time.
researching it.
I guess because I don't think about like, to me, I just assume that if you are one thing, you are all of the things, just because of the nature of like how Hollywood is.
Yeah.
Like, I
Hollywood
don't think
does
of it as
attract
like,
polymaths.
like I just thought about Jennifer Kent as a director, and that's how I've always thought about her. And there's
Yeah.
Catherine Bigelow too, but I don't know if she's been an actor too. If you want to look up Catherine Bigelow,
Catherine.
I'm almost positive she is.
Catherine Bigelow, also director. Oh, Juanfer actually mentioned her in the chat. I just noticed.
No, she's not. It doesn't say on her Wikipedia that she's an actress. So
Well, you go to her. You go to their
IMDb.
IMDb's and see if they have any acting credits. But it's also tough because, like, even Spielberg, like, everybody's got acting credits, you know.
yeah.
Even Wes Anderson has an acting credit.
What did he do?
He was in his own. He's been in his own
He
stuff.
cameos and stuff
He was
just
in
like
a-
Tarantino.
He was in a commercial too. He made an American Express commercial that he was in.
Yeah.
So that's technically called acting, even though he was playing himself. But
Well, this
Uh,
Catherine, what's her name?
Catherine
does
Bigelow?
have acting ones too, but definitely a lot more directing ones.
yeah, I think she mainly focuses on directing.
It's hard enough to name female directors, but the fact that we mostly can only name ones that we are more well known for their acting than their directing says something about the industry, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think more than anything, it really is like what we were talking about. I think it's just developing the idea of, first of all, it was developing who was being in front and behind the camera.
Yes.
People didn't care about the people who were behind the camera.
Yes.
And then as that progressed more, it was still a lot easier for females to be in front of the camera than to be behind the camera.
Well, also you have to remember that in the era we're talking about, very few independent filmmakers, very few people became independent filmmakers and achieved any success for the majority of Hollywood's existence. That's a more recent phenomenon, for one thing, in the last 20 to 30 years. Then beyond, out of all the history of cinema. Then beyond that, you have to remember that it was also elitist in the sense that you had to go to a major film school, you had to do your time, you had to pay your dues. There was all those stuff. So there was a formal path. So in general, until again another recent phenomenon, women were not really pushed toward higher education as a whole, and then very few were pushed to pursue the liberal arts versus any practical degree. So anything that is a artistic vocation was not usually something that you were going to see large female representation in. In general, there was not large representation in liberal arts and things like writing, filmmaking, screenwriting, so on and so forth, because it's a profession that is a high risk in terms of high risk, high reward. It's not something that is considered practical. And so considering the investment that college is for the majority of people, it was always going to be a pursuit for people who came from means, who came from privilege, whom getting a degree in something, you could pursue something you want because, oh, well, you'll be fine.
Right.
So the number of people who can pursue that has always been limited. Even now, it's still that case of,
Right.
do something, get a stable job, get a salary, all that stuff. That's why, it's difficult for people who want to pursue the path we do, even though we're proving that there's money in it.
Right.
There hasn't been for so long. So you see, it's,
Jane,
so I could see that that's why, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, it's not as much, there is a history of women being blocked from opportunities in this, but I really wanted to look at the socioeconomic and realistic reasons why there would be less people in the industry unless they have the path of being there and working their way up through the industry already. There's just not a lot of good paths to becoming a director, honestly.
Yeah.
It's very limited.
I think even more so now with how many avenues there are to take, makes it even more difficult, I feel like. So Jay in the chat, he mentioned Jane Campion. And I looked her up, and she seems to be a legit writer director. With
Nice.
only 2 acting credits. And one of them is a short, and the other one is a TV show.
Shonda Rhimes.
Shonda Rhimes. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is interesting. But again, I think that it's just because of the nature of the industry, it does lend itself to people being multifaceted and wearing different hats.
And usually coming from means.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Speaking of means, who's meaner, guys? Aliens, robots, or humans?
That was a way to segue, I guess.
That was very creative.
I'll be here all week.
I think humans, probably.
You think humans are meaner? You haven't even met the aliens or the robots. Why are you're just judging them?
The robots are going to be based off of us. So, and then aliens.
Okay, that's fair.
They haven't bothered us yet.
That you know.
We don't know. We don't think they have.
Okay. So it depends. It depends. An interplanetary or extra-dimensional species capable of an extra-dimensional species or an interplanetary species is going to be of a higher level of intelligence than us to be able to develop that level of technology and capability.
What if they just throw one of them towards our planet and hope they survive? They're not actually like super advanced.
Wait, you're throwing what at us?
Just like one person in a really small spaceship just to send an alien to us. They're not actually like that advanced. They just put all their resources into
the one shot. I mean, well, it means that they would be equal to us or slightly better than us in intelligence. They'd be equal to or greater than. And I mean, we kind of just barely have decided not to nuke ourselves. So if they got that far, we have to assume that they're on the same level or higher than us. And in my opinion, any species that gets to that point, unless they themselves are colonizers, like, you know, conquerors, conquistadors of some kind, intergalactic conquistadors, right? Unless they're of that ilk, then they would be benign, and we probably are the bigger threat than them. Robots, machines, they could just outlive us because they're immortal, and they probably, if they are self-actualized AI based, they don't need to exterminate us, because again, they would just outlive us because they could just design themselves to survive the nuclear winter, and then we would like screw ourselves over, and so they don't have to waste resources. They just have to decide whether or not they have to decide whether or not the damage we can do to the planet weakens their potential to thrive as a species, and then if they determine that, they then have to determine whether it's more expedient to, or more practical to make us more efficient and help us survive, and then reach some kind of agreement or symbiosis with us, or whether or not they eliminate us. Or, to be frank, I never understood in Terminator the idea of, oh, we'll eliminate the humans and blah, blah, blah. When Terminators could have just been like, we're going to leave the planet and like screw you guys, and the machines will have their own thing, because, I mean, that just would seem the more practical answer. So in terms of what's a threat, aliens would probably be more logical than us. And if they are not as biologically frail as us, or even if they are, they probably are less violent. If they're biologically frail, they're less violent than us because they would lose. So there's that. Then there is their numbers. We, as a species, like, breed at an absurd rate. So machines building themselves, or aliens, population-wise, I just feel like we're the bigger threat. We're the bigger threat. We're like damn locust. We're the only thing. Agent Smith had it right. We don't
Did you
build
just call us locusts?
locust. Agent Smith was like, okay, you as human beings are like the only thing on the planet that doesn't form a natural equilibrium with its environment. And he was right. So we are a threat to our own species, our own planet, and probably the galaxy at large. And Earth is probably our quarantine or a prison planet, like you said, Romina. So either we've got the alien zookeepers, or we're quarantined because we're the galaxy's boogeyman, and this is the prison planet.
Yes, Audrey.
I'm just alien zookeepers. That sounds amazing.
We talked about
the
about
zookeeper
this?
theory. Yeah, the zookeeper theory dictates that we're basically in a wildlife preserve.
So you know how people go on safari and game drives in Africa?
Yes.
Basically, the aliens come here.
Do you think they have tours?
Yeah, they got
Of
tours.
Earth?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all of our
for
UFO.
sure they got tours.
All of our UFO stuff. All of our UFO stuff is them going on those safari tours. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of our UFO
That
stuff
makes
is
perfect
aliens on
sense.
safari checking out the freaks.
Now, here's the thing. I don't think that we are completely a disaster. I think that to some degree, I mean, I do feel that the basis of life is chaos. And I think that
I'm a lord of order.
we are a part of that chaos. And just as much damage as we do, we also do good as well. Whether the ratio is off balance sometimes is absolutely justified, but I still think that as a whole, human species aren't as detrimental as maybe you put us out to be a few minutes ago. I don't disagree with you, but I also don't totally agree with you, because I do think that there is some chaos that's involved here. You know?
I think
there's a
that's
quote
dangerous.
that there's a quote that I'm looking for that sums up this very well. But go ahead, Audrey.
What do you think about this, Audrey? Everything Roberto just said.
I think that humans are a problem.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you for that. So I guess we can move on to the next topic.
No, there's a quote, and I'm looking for it here. There's this really good quote, and it's from. Are you familiar? Are either of you familiar with the concept of abridged anime?
Abridged?
No.
Yeah. All right. So, abridged anime are where people voice dub over an anime and then make it more
Abridged?
comedic. Well, no, more comedic, and they and what happens is they put and insert the jokes that the fandom kind of would feel or would superimpose into this situation if they were in it. And so it's really hilarious. But there's this thing from Sword Art Online Abridged where the main character, and it's basically humans get trapped in a video game and death happens for real. You know? And and so if you die in the game, you die in real life.
Are we talking about Sword Art Online?
It is Sword Art Online. And so in Sword Art Online Abridged, I'm so glad that you've actually watched that. So in Sword Art Online Abridged, there is a point where the main character Kirito is fighting this monster, this like demon goat like monster thing called Gleam Eyes, and it's like this absurd, ridiculous boss, and they're also trapped. And so in the abridged version, he snaps, and he ends up fighting the thing solo. And then he has I found the quote. When he starts fighting this thing, and he explains his feelings about humanity. And he says, and I quote, "They're selfish, ignorant, loud, obnoxious pricks with no basic redeeming qualities whatsoever. I mean, look at all they've achieved. Genocide, global warming, reality TV. It's just a never-ending parade of failures and fuck-ups, and they are without question a complete write-off as a species, and how dare you make me care about them?" And so he says that as he's fighting the boss level. And so like for the people that I lost, I think that quote sums it up. So basically you have a very cynical, nihilistic young man who has now been forced to actually care about his fellow man, and he's really upset about it because he has justifiable reasons for his contempt for humanity. And I stated it with his eloquent quote. And the thing is, when he said that, I was like, dude has a point here. Like, he has a point here. It's like, how do I rationalize the human race here? How do I yeah, all of this science, all of this technology and everything, and look at all the petty bullshit we do. Like, all of this unlimited potential, the ability to turn your thoughts into things, all the wonders of the universe at your disposal, the stars right there beckoning for exploration, and look at the petty bullshit that we fight over, and look at the horrors that we have wrought throughout even recent history upon our fellow man over trivial bullshit instead of ascending as a species. Like, look at how we fuck around.
Yup.
Look at what matters to us. Look at what matters to us. We could be gods. We could be gods.
We could be gods.
We need a soundboard for this.
We could be gods.
Just react with sound.
That's your job, Audrey.
Okay.
You are the soundboard.
Yeah.
Here. Pumbaa.
So yeah. I mean,
I
that's
don't.
my
Okay,
thought.
for the sake of not dragging this down into a nihilistic pit hole, I do think. I mean, even though I'm quasi nihilist over here,
Yeah.
I also like to think. I also like to be a little bit optimistic. As I'm pretty cynical when it comes to people, when it comes to individuals, but when it comes to humanity as a whole, I do feel a little bit more optimistic, and I do have a little bit more of an idealistic view of humanity as a whole. As a whole,
I have
but when I meet people
I think
individually,
I think
that goes downhill real quick.
Yeah. For me, it can be either way. I can go either way on that. And I think you've experienced that in our conversations one-on-one and our text. I can go either way on that. I can either, I'm fascinated by humanity as a concept and the potential of humanity. I look at the history and that's where I'm like, maybe this is a wash and we just, like, that's where it's a write-off here. Let's start over. This is a write-off. It's like I'm not claiming this one. It's just so it's like, yeah, can I file can I file
Eddie
humanity on my taxes as a loss?
Wow.
Can I file this investment as a loss, please? Thank you.
Audrey, would you like to bring a little bit of light into this conversation so that we aren't writing off humanity as a loss?
Yeah.
I think I agree with Eddie Garrison, who says that he believes in individuals, not the masses. You agree with Eddie? Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with.
So Eddie in the chat.
Eddie
in the chat says that he's the opposite, and he says, "I believe in individuals and not the masses." Now, I'll tell you why I'm the opposite. I believe I'm cynical when it comes to individuals because I do believe that when individuals are acting on their own accord, they're acting in self-interest, either because they get some kind of gratification from it, or because they get something from it, money, notoriety, friendship, whatever it is, right?
I think people should act from self-interest.
Anyway.
But I think yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean by I'm just cynical, because I when I look at other people like as individuals and I see them carry about their day, they're acting in their own self-interest. So I'm cynical about that.
I think the thing is we should, but the thing is my cynical thing is people act in their own self-interest in ways that I find to be petty and not representative of the fulfillment of one's ultimate potential, because I'm like weirdly, all right, so the villainous version of me is like M. Bison from the Street Fighter 2 anime, where I'm sitting there just thinking about they went to this, like, Ken and Ryu from the same school, huh? But their fighting potentials aren't necessarily the same now, are they? It's like, and all I want is like whichever fighter has the greatest overall potential, and like, and that's the one that I either make my apprentice or that I take on as my new host body. So like that's the you have to watch Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, to get the plot here.
Confused by this comparison.
Yeah, you have to watch Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. It's on Netflix. Watch Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, but it's actually really good because the whole thing is the concept of unlimited potential. It's the whole thing about like warriors literally fighting walking across the entire globe and fighting and brawling to unlock their unlimited potential as humans.
Romina, what have you discovered? This is so much better.
Yeah, I don't know. I had no idea that this was a thing here. All right, for those of you who are listening and have no idea what Audrey is talking about, we currently film this live, as Roberto said in our intro and outro.
Filmed from a live YouTube audience.
Precisely. And so I just discovered a little text, some graphic overlay stuff that I could customize, and that's what Audrey's talking about. So if you aren't watching us live already, you should join us because it's fun. We currently have a super awesome group of people who are in chat right now and who are basically collaborating with us, and they are also co-hosts on this show with us. So if you want to be a part of the action and not be a square or triangle, Come be a novel and join us every Thursday night at 8-ish p.m.-ish.
Roberto Standard Time.
Roberto Standard Time. Come join us at youtube.com/noassemblypod. You can check out the graphics we just discovered. Well, that I just discovered because I'm amazing.
The only reason to come watch us live. That's some sick graphics.
Yeah. Sick graphics, yo. Human individual potential is the thing that fascinates me about individual humans. But I agree with Beanie. Mostly they're disappointing.
Okay, so the reason that I brought up Beanie's comment from the chat is because he says, I believe in the potential for good, but I also know humans often disappoint. And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, except I think maybe he worded it a little bit more accessible than I did. Which this is how I feel. As a whole, I believe that there is good and that there is a potential for good. But I know that humans as individuals often disappoint.
Well, I mean, my biggest gripe probably, and again, it sounds elite, is that my biggest gripe is the squandered potential. My biggest gripe is the squandered potential and the fact that we don't have systems that, and I've talked to you both about this, is like, my biggest beef with everything is like, why don't we have our systems in place to optimize everybody for their maximum potential, not to fit into a framework
because we don't want them
convenience.
because we don't want them to overthrow the powers. If everybody reached their potential, they would all realize how horrible the system is, and they would all try to overthrow it.
Not really, because a system that was designed to maximize your potential is not one you'd want to disrupt. Not to mention that in maximizing your potential,
people want to disrupt the Federation.
Nobody who is self-actualized does. See, once you reach your maximum,
and those are the problems, Robert. Those are the bad eggs.
Not really, because once you reach your maximum potential and you move beyond these petty things, once you reach your maximum full potential and you've moved beyond these petty things, you move on to much greater, much grander ambitions that really don't require you to worry about or disrupt the system, because the thing is, you've kind of moved beyond it. And the thing is, I can say this because here's something most people cannot relate to. There is an actual point and threshold that you can reach and that you can work your way up to and earn in life. Believe it or not, it is attainable. It's very few people ever do it, but there's a point at which most of the things that happen in the world don't really affect you that much, and you do not need to be a multimillionaire for that to be true. There is a point at which, outside of annoyance or outside of your moral values, that who is in office locally or federally or something impacts you in a very, very minor way at best, if at all, and very little in your day-to-day life. There's a point at which that becomes true, and it has less to do with the amount of money you make, although that is for most people the reason, but it has to do with your overall autonomy. And the thing is, most people want to disrupt the system because of the fact that they lack autonomy. Once you have a certain amount of autonomy, the system doesn't bother you in the same way. It bothers you as a concept, as an idea, but it doesn't actually infringe on anything you actually want or care about in any meaningful way. Now, that, again, is what people refer to as a privileged position. I refer to it as a luxury that is afforded once you've met certain requirements or unlocked certain things. So I think of it more like, consider in video game logic, there's a level at which, you know what? There's a level at which nothing bothers me as long as I don't go raid an epic dungeon. Like, there's a level at which nothing in the environment just absolutely destroys me like it used to. I mean, there's...
Rudolph Turtle.
No, that's like, God, what is that thing? It's an albino turtle. Is it an albino turtle?
No, it's not. It is not a turtle.
Is it an armadillo?
It is not an armadillo.
Roberto, how's your eye doing?
A little better.
Wait, there were things that I wanted to comment on. on what Roberto was talking about, because even though it seems like I'm not paying attention, I am.
You are.
So some of the things that were discussed were, it is not a rooster mouse.
That's amazing.
All right, again, for the people who are listening, there's stuff that's happening.
I'm confused.
Stuff that's happening in person here, live
in video,
and in the video, and that is and that's what's being discussed right
Romina
now.
playing with her stuffed animals as usual.
Hey, I'm an adult. All right, so what were we talking about?
We were talking about the point at which the system is a.
Here we were talking about. Okay, so the thing is, here's all right, Roberto. Look, I understand everything that you were talking about, but
yeah,
my concern is the people who are threatening the Federation. I understand that they're not self-actualized, but it doesn't matter. They're still threatening the Federation. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't. Regardless of it, it still doesn't change the fact that they're threatening it, and I have a problem with that.
Yeah. That I don't disagree with that. I mean, put down the feeble rebellion.
Wow.
What?
Like, what is it? The Emperor said it's like, oh, I'm afraid your friends will find that this Death Star is fully operational.
All right. The government doesn't want to invest in education so that it's easier to control, or they just don't care. I want
no, it's negligent. It's not something designed to trap and enslave as much as it's a matter of negligence and the fact that it's like, we don't have to spend any money, and then we can reallocate those funds to things that allow us to pad our wallets and that allow us to keep skiing in Aspen, and like, so let's do that. And oh, well, our kids are fine, so who gives a shit about theirs? It's not some nefarious plot as much as it's just people being a dick. I mean, never attribute to malice what could be attributed to dickishness.
Ignorance.
Well, the proper quote is ignorance, but in this case, I think it's just dickishness and douchebaggery. Dickishness and douchebaggery. Yeah, like.
Wouldn't you say they're one and the same?
But seriously, it's like somebody being an entitled prick is not the same thing as them being a criminal mastermind.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Scarface was a criminal mastermind, but he was also charming.
Yeah, honestly, if he's not plotting against you,
yeah,
get some beers.
Live and let live, man.
Yeah, I mean, to be real with you, it's like,
endorsing Scarface.
Hey, Scarface was Cuban, all right.
You could get some beers. You can get some beers with Scarface if he ain't against you. I mean,
right? If you don't owe him money,
yeah,
and if you don't have to complete a job for him, then you're good.
And if you aren't in a rival, if you're not a rival, So right. If you just
I think they said it best in The Godfather: keep your enemies close, or your friends close, and your enemies closer.
Yeah, something like that. But again, I just it comes down to a villain that you can get, or villain or antagonist that you could see getting a beer with if you're not on the other side. Is like, that's who you're like, okay, this is just circumstances here. Like, so again, just remember that, like, when we talk about a lot of these people in government or in general, government, captains of industry, authority, keep in mind that more of these people, it's not that they are trying out to get you or screw you. It's that they don't care about you at all. They don't think about you at all.
So what chef in the chat, he says, fun fact, education in Greece is free, so no fees are paid by students. Embodied in the country's constitution is that all Greek citizens are entitled to free education. Now, here's the thing. The problem isn't free education. We have plenty of free education here in the United States as well. The problem is the quality of it. That's the problem.
That's quality control. And again, the design, the measurement systems, the overall user experience, the accountability, but the user experience is also really poor. And then also, the fact that it's evaluative instead of diagnostic. Remember what I said about, oh, we use these things and we sort you and we say, oh, you didn't get this, you're stupid, versus, oh, you're not good at this, but you're good at that. Like, again, we don't really think about people's natural abilities, gifts, aptitudes, learning styles. We don't account for any of it. There are people
Well, didn't
who are
I talk
hands-on
about this
learners.
on was it on Twitter? I don't know where I was talking about it, or was it in our chat? I don't even know.
It was both. It was both, actually.
Where I was talking about like the fact that, oh yeah, I think because you asked a question or something, and I kind of like sparked something where I was like, why is it that the school or education institution, why is it that they aren't trying to hone in on what your best skills are? And I guess some people, oh, it was on Twitter, because some people responded saying things like, well, just because, you know, you're good at it doesn't mean that you want to do that, or, you know, stuff like that. But I feel like if there had been, you know, what's funny is that I actually found this project that I had done when I was probably like 11 years old. I think I might have been 10 or 11. I found this project and I opened it up, and it was like a binder. It was a science portfolio that I had done of like different like research and stuff like that I had for class. And I wrote a letter at the front, because I think you were required, you had to write a Dear Reader letter to explain what was going to be in the portfolio and stuff. And I called myself a scientist. And I said, please look at the data, blah, 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 blah. And like, I explained like all this stuff. And I was like, as a scientist, like there's like blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? You're a stupid little 12-year-old. Shut up. But there was not like, I feel like, I think part of it too was when you asked a question, Roberto, on Twitter, and I had responded about the fact that I had been on my robotics team, but because I didn't participate enough, and it was a catch-22, because the reason that I didn't participate enough was because the other people on my robotics team were more involved and were doing more stuff. And I was often feeling left out, and I felt like my opinions didn't matter on the team, and my ideas weren't ever taken. Like none of my ideas that I ever suggested on my team were ever applied to our robot or robots that we were building. And so I often felt really isolated from my team, even though I did want to be there because I thought it was cool and it was fun. And I did have a couple of my friends who were also on the team, so I wanted to be a part of it. But there was this negligence to realize that I was not involved on the team, and I was just like a third wheel that was there. But I feel if there had been somebody that was like fostering that better.
This is why my approach to an education model is that, remember how my thing is I want to do AI-based education that makes it individualized learning at everyone's speed, pace, and aptitudes, and that the AI diagnoses what you are and aren't good at by challenging and testing you and adapting, and also realizing you learn more if I talk to you, so headphones in, or you learn better by reading, or you learn better by puzzles, so here's graphics and puzzles and things, and so move the hands on the iPad, like your learning style, it figures that out. But I don't want to eliminate teachers. I just want to raise the bar and make teachers social scientists and behavioral scientists, so that they can figure out group pairings so that you would be able to have what you need and not be neglected, and you could socialize in a way that's to your advantage. And so proper group education and group pairings needs to be done by somebody who has the skills of a behavioral scientist. And that's what I think is the role in the education of teachers, is the humanistic side of learning, because all of the curriculum and data and facts and training and tutorials, the AI can do all of it. We need humans to teach human things.
Yeah. What Chef in the chat, he brings up again Greece and says that when he spoke to people in Greece, they all had degrees, and even if they were doing non-related work, like working in bars, food places, etc. Sounds a lot like the U.S. Freaking, we have scientists who are working who are working as baristas at Starbucks. So that's definitely not. I feel like that's a worldwide. Oh, right. They're coffee chemists, right? Sure. Juanfer in the chat says education shouldn't be free; it should be mandatory. But why can't it be both? I don't think.
I think he's sarcastically saying that the concept of the word free is the problem versus the concept of the word mandatory, which is what I agree with. I believe that the way we should think about it is, in general, it's better for our society to have people that we've raised into a higher optimal level and that we've changed the standard and the threshold. Because, I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick about this, but you do realize that when we displaced 40 million people from the economy, 16 million of which will not be getting their jobs back, that the world didn't end, right? And forgive me if I have to ask this, but it's like, out of everybody here, did your life dramatically change as a result of the fact that the unemployment rate skyrocketed to 40 million in terms of, and this isn't true for everybody, I'm not making this a universal axiom, but like everyone that I know, even other people and people who have themselves become unemployed from this and are about to get their stimulus and so on and so forth, the reality is that in terms of their day-to-day in beyond their job, I'm talking about the fact that their needs are mostly being met. Everything that they need, as long as they have money, their needs are being met. Meaning it's like we somehow displaced 40 million Americans from the job market and the country didn't collapse and the world didn't end.
Right.
And there are some actual answers for that. Most people aren't even looking at it, but I mean, doesn't it scare you to know that we can displace 40 million humans and your life doesn't necessarily change? Your life. Like the things you want and need. But what does it tell you, though? What does it tell you about the necessity of the entry-level jobs and the necessity of things that our ability to get value and to get goods and services is not necessarily predicated on non-skilled labor, and that we could actually replace it through logistics automation and allocating work responsibility in ways that don't require nearly as many people as we've had employed.
Right.
I think the data kind of speaks for itself. The problem is that we don't have work for these people and that it's horrible for them and that we need to do something. Again, I like universal basic income for situations like these, and then also reskilling and retasking. But the problem I have is this. We essentially have 40 million people that we've displaced, but we have millions of high-skilled jobs that we have no candidates for. So let's think about this. We displaced a lot of people making less than $15 an hour, but we can't find people for jobs we have that pay $150,000 a year.
Right.
That tells you the problem is that we have a massive skill gap. We have this absurdly massive skill gap, and we're not training people for jobs that will exist 20 years from now. And that's a problem. We don't have qualified candidates to fill all the roles of things we actually need right now. There's nobody to provide it. There's no one to provide what we need now. And we aren't creating the people who can do that. And in fact, we have to import them from outside of our country and entice people with visas, which I have no problem with, but some people do. And why don't we have people here? Well, why don't we have people here who can fulfill those roles? Well, because we paid tax dollars and we didn't get that net result, which tells me that we were failed and that the money was squandered because we paid these hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars in taxes. We have a $21 trillion economy, and we have high-paying, high-wage jobs and nobody that can do the job?
Right.
Well, what does that tell you? It means our education system is bullshit. And I'm not blaming the teachers. I'm blaming the fact that we never decided to change anything from an old model. We still observe
Right.
this bullshit idea of summer vacation that would send people back home so they could do the harvest. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
We still observe daylight savings time for the same reason. It's so stupid. We have these archaic
Yeah.
systems where we cling to tradition that produces no net value in the marketplace, nor does it enhance the human experience in any way.
Yeah.
It's just stupid.
I mean, if we really wanted to go back to tradition, then all women should stay home and be housewives and teach their children, which is what they originally
a
did.
lot of people want to do that.
But then when women started to get their own jobs and started to get rights and were treated as individuals, then the children were left at home and they're like, well, what do we do with the children? Oh, I know. Well, we got to send them to school. We got to send them, we got to go put them somewhere. So they put them in a house, and then they taught them stuff for, 8 hours a day. But it doesn't, but since then, very little has been done to change that.
It doesn't make society better.
So much of the world has changed in the last 10 years alone, yet the system for education hasn't changed.
Right.
In lifetimes.
And the result is you have people whose bare minimum, you have people who believe. It's not true. You have people who believe that their maximum contribution to society is essentially to be a beast of burden, and that they need more money from that because they cannot subsist on being a beast of burden. They cannot have a life of any kind of dignity. When the answer to providing people a life of dignity was to make sure that they don't leave the public education system with only the ability to be a beast of burden, only the ability to provide non-skilled labor. We pay too much in taxes, in my opinion, for that to be the median outcome. That is literally, by the way, the median outcome for the majority of people who pass through the public education system. Is if you pass through the public education system, congratulations, beast of burden. You're out into the world and everything. Go fend for yourself. And that's stupid.
There's also this mentality of education or of learning being a requirement, a chore. It's like, oh, well, it's something that I have to do. Instead of having the mindset of learning and growing my mind and my thinking powers is cool.
This is awesome.
Is useful. And I think part of what makes, and again, I'm sorry, I have to go back to Star Trek, is the Federation. When we go, the reason that Starfleet and that society works is because people are doing their jobs, people are doing their homework because it's what there is to do, is because they get the joy and the satisfaction from the task itself. So it's not about how many credits they're getting. It's not about how many bars of Latinum they're getting. It's not about the notoriety that they're getting for most people. It's about the act itself. And I think that comes from a mindset that's there. It's implanted, where, if I'm going to school, it's a joy to go to school because I'm going there to learn, because I'm going there to become an independent, free-thinking, critical thinking individual, as opposed to, oh, well, I gotta go to school because my mom told me that I have to go to school, or I'm doing my homework because if I don't do my homework, then my teacher's gonna hate me and then I'm gonna fail, and then
what you explained actually explains the plot hole that I could never figure out in the Highlander series. In the Highlander series, you have people who are immortal unless they're beheaded. So you can't kill them. They can't get diseases. The only way for them to die is for their head to be removed. There's and it's this grand game, and allegedly the last survivor and everything, I think, attains godhood. But here's the thing. I would have figured out, if I lived for 600 years without being killed, I would have already figured out how to become a god, on paper, if not in reality, or equivalent. Meaning that it's if you have 600 years to learn everything that you could possibly learn, how do you not ascend to a level of superiority compared to everybody else that would essentially make you a god, when you consider that if we go back 600 years with everything, all the advancements we've made, like if we go back with any of our technology and learning and everything like that, we go over there and like we're wholesale like gods and sorcerers compared to those people, right? So when you think about the ability to see the transcendence of human history and be a part of it in the Highlander series, the reason that no one attained that level of godhood is goes back to our like humanity is petty and like shallow and a write-off, because you know what they did? They gallivanted across the world and everything like that. You know, getting riches, learning languages, getting laid, and sword fighting, and that's it. Nobody just decided, gee, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to use this gift of immortality, unlock the secrets of the universe, invent shit, like study all the maths and scientists and everything like that, and put myself above, like so far above the game, and like, you know, screw like the sword fighting and the, oh, there can only be one shit and everything like that. No, all you guys run along and do that. I will figure out, you know, you guys will fight each other to the death for godhood. I'll just sit here and do it the hard way, unlocking the secrets of the universe one book at a time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, there's a sense of feeling self-actualized, I think is what it is. It's just getting to that level of what you said. It's like, well, if I can just, you know, the satisfaction of just becoming a god by just, you know,
sheer
doing
effort.
the thing. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely, I get a joy from that, from teaching myself. I mean, I'm constantly reading stuff. If it isn't Wikipedia, if it isn't journals, if it isn't articles, if it isn't, you know, masterclass, Khan Academy.
When Wikipedia came out in the early days of the internet, I was like, this is amazing. Like,
It was great. I mean, I was reading about marine biology.
I was printing Wikipedia pages.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. I had the world's brain at my fingertips.
I taught myself how to code at 13 years old. I didn't have a teacher. I taught myself to code at 13 years old.
Yeah, Otto in the chat brings up a good point, which is, you know, let's not discard just going to school altogether, just because you know, you do get social skills and things like that.
No, I mean, again, but I want to enhance that. My answer is combining an AI peripheral like an iPad with AI in it to diagnostically teach you things based on your aptitude skill, determine your aptitude skill, teach you based on your learning style, discover your learning style, all that, and then a human being to teach you the human shit, to like actually help you socialize, but to actually put you in paired groups with people. I mean, not unlike an anime where we're like, oh, we're going to combine these three quirky kids and they'll all balance each other's personalities out. Yeah, like, you know, Naruto style. It's like, you know, so you find those groups and everything, and you can now balance out somebody's personality or their quirks, and you can nurture versus nature them into, you know, their optimal ability. I mean, because again, if Romina had a teacher who could do that, to pair her with the right group of people, like this trio, like then it would have brought out the better aspects of her personality. You know, I think to some extent, like Audrey, you talked about the fact that we're helping bring you out of your shell.
Yep.
Except she said like 20 words in this entire podcast episode.
I was
All right,
Roberto, we're not going to say anything for an entire minute. This is Audrey's turn now.
I can't monologue. I need something to go off of.
All right, it is currently 9:19.
Final call on the biggest threat: aliens, robots, or humans.
You got a minute.
You can't just leave me. If someone in the chat said stickers/reward systems need to go. And I think that's sad because I like gold stars too. Eddie said he likes gold stars. But I was actually talking to my mom about trophies when you're younger and how they give trophies to everyone and how that's stupid because it's like false sense of accomplishment when it's just a participatory trophy. I don't like this, Romina. You need to come back now. I can't talk by myself.
I think I agree with you in general.
Wow. All right.
Audrey-
You made it
Audrey.
30 seconds. Okay.
Yeah, Audrey, I agree with you about the concept of participatory trophies in general for nothing. However, I think we should actually hand out, I've come around to this, I think we should hand out more trophies. I think we're just handing out trophies for the wrong things. When I was a kid, there was something called the Good Citizenship Award. To get the Good Citizenship Award, you actually had to be conscientious, courteous, you had to be polite, and you had to not bully people, and you had to be helpful. And so again, you had to be a good citizen. Do you realize what would happen if people were acknowledged and rewarded and celebrated publicly for good citizenship as children, and then even all the way through school? Do you realize, literally, if we, the same way people get honors cords for their good grades at the end of school, high school, what would, if people actually had a merit-based system that looked at their behavior and how they treat people and their sense of civic consciousness and their community service and volunteering, and if you literally were going to get an award and a certificate and get to stand on stage for a moment for volunteerism in your community and for good citizenship and not having disciplinary problems in school, do you realize, and if also, again, if colleges were paying attention to that and considering that as well, do you realize what would change in, like, think about it, in your, both of you, in school, if that were on the table, don't you think that that would have made a difference?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe,
Definitely.
or it would be seen as lame.
No, because attention.
That happens.
No, think about it. Attention. If everybody, like, look, think about it like this. Imagine a world in YouTube land. Imagine in YouTube land, if the only people who had gold and diamond play buttons, meaning gold play buttons, 1 million subscribers, diamond play buttons, 10 million subscribers, if the only people who ever achieved that all happened to all be family friendly, didn't curse, didn't have scandals, if that was the pattern, if the established pattern was that, like, oh, it's people who aren't scumbags or shitbags or basic,
Right.
or like, if it was just like, wow, you have to actually, the community only celebrates at scale
Higher
people
standards.
who have high standards.
Right.
If that were true,
Yeah.
more YouTubers would have emulated that and said, I guess that's what it takes to be a successful YouTuber, is I have to actually do this and this and this, and I cannot have a bad reputation. The YouTube community would be completely different, because everyone, that would mean that chasing clout would mean you actually have to be a responsible person.
Right.
Standards.
It's kind of like what someone said it. Who said it up in the chat? Someone said it. I don't remember who it was, but someone in the chat was talking about how if all you have to do is the bare minimum in order to get by and pass a course, then why do more? And I think it comes back to that, where there's
a point in high school when I felt like
it's setting a high standard where if you see the best student, the student who's getting 110% and getting the gold star stickers, if they're doing the bare minimum or doing very little, and they're getting that far, then why do you need to do more?
When I realized that I could get the second highest score in the entire school and still fail that class because of participation and attendance, I stopped trying at school, because I didn't stop learning.
The same thing happened to me
trying.
too.
I didn't stop learning, but I stopped trying because I realized that I can be smarter than everybody else, and if I don't arbitrarily just play against the rule book, which is where my whole, just play against the rule book and you'll be fine. Because,
well, I mean, that was exactly what I was doing too. I mean, like, for me, as soon as the teachers posted what the homework was, the class wasn't even over yet, and I was already doing my homework. So by the time I got home, I didn't have any homework because my homework was done. I did it during the day.
Yep.
So all I would do is, like, I would get home and I would just be on the internet, and I would be watching movies. the whole night until morning. Like that was
I
it. That
did
was
stuff
like
like
my
that,
my
yeah.
school experience where it was like I didn't have homework at night unless it was like some huge, report or like I had a huge test or something like that I had to study for. But aside from
Yeah.
that, it was like I suddenly had all these hours after school
Yeah,
where
I did that, or I'd do it on the bus, or I'd literally wait till the morning, knowing that I could pull it off and that I could bullshit my way through it and do it in the morning right before
because
class.
it was multiple choice. Like it was very quick and
What school you
painless.
guys go to? Dang. I was like always doing homework. Took
No,
forever.
like when I
Well,
did
I think what
homework,
it is
there's a point where I stopped doing my homework and I started just taking money to do everyone else's, and that was my, and I decided that money was more important, and it's not surprising I became who I
Yeah.
became.
I mean, it's not that we didn't have, because I definitely had a lot of homework. It's just that I was smart about when I did it,
Yeah.
so that
I
I
did
would get
half
home and
of the
not have to
classes
have-
biology reports, and I never got caught. I did half of the classes biology reports. I'm not even kidding, and I never got caught. I never got caught. I even literally developed a system to be able to change my handwriting. I actually put more effort into. Helping everyone plagiarize their their reports, than into actually doing my own. And I made good money. I made $20 a report. Like I was like for a high schooler, I was
Mr.
fucking baller.
Scarface in high school.
Instead
Well,
of
it's not
a
like I
drug
was gonna
dealer,
have.
Roberto was an
It's
essay
not.
dealer.
Well, it's not like I had a lot of money saved for college, unfortunately. So it's like like you do what you got to do. But Eddie Garrison put up something where and not just because he said Roberto's right, but it's
No,
that,
I mean I was going to mention this too right now.
yeah, people mimic those they aspire to success. So if we change what success is, it all changes. And I agree. That's why I brought up the YouTube community as the obvious thing. Is like
I think we should say that again slower for the people listening because I think it's important. If you change what success is, it all changes. So success in quotation marks. Change what your definition of success is, and that will change the outcome.
Yes, for the individual, absolutely. But if we did that as a society at scale, it all changes. So to Audrey's point, if like participation trophies is one thing, but I think we need, because people need and want, and human beings are conditioned by cheap dopamine and acknowledgement and attention, and they're probably not getting enough of it at home, to be real with you, that if you do give out trophies for the things you want people to do more of, you'll condition that behavior. And that means that as a society, because we say participation trophies, I don't want to give away trophies for nothing. I want to give away trophies to specifically condition behavior I want replicated at scale.
Yeah.
And that is beneficial to the net outcome of the individual, but also to us as a society.
I'm going to give you guys a
good
trophy if you
citizenship would
show
be an
up
answer.
early and on time for this podcast
See,
every
here's the
week
thing.
for an entire month.
What do I get?
A trophy.
See, you like, I need better bait than that. Like, because for me, we're
Wow.
past the point
Okay,
where
so you were trying
need
out.
better
Okay,
prize.
so you don't want a little. Roberto, what if I get you a cute little trophy? Like, you really don't want that on your desk? Wouldn't that make you feel proud? Wouldn't you be like, oh man, that's cute? Like, Romina put so much effort into making this trophy.
Maybe.
You really gonna play me like that?
Maybe. Because again,
Depends.
most people can be won over by cheap dopamine. There's a point where your natural resistance to things starts to elevate, and you know this, Romina, because it's part of like something you and I have talked about with because resistance theory. It's where it's like we know how to be successful, but there's a point in our brain where something doesn't become challenging enough because we're easily bored, and then it's easy to give into distractions.
So I think. Do you have any last words on this, Audrey? Because I feel like we should probably wrap this up real soon. But I want to give you a minute to
I think
talk
you
about.
guys nailed it. I don't know what.
All right, so then let's go back to Roberto's earlier question: aliens, robots, humans.
Humans.
Oh wait, what are you
Came to this
picking? Wait,
consensus
what are you saying?
that humans are the worst.
All right, humans are the worst. Okay.
Humans are the worst.
Roberto, humans are the worst. All right.
Humans. I'll qualify.
How
it
we
real
all
quick.
agree.
Humans. I mean, robots could go. meh, because immortal bodies. So they can
Wow.
go, meh, we outlived you, or hell, we don't need this planet. We can go and we can. I mean, think about it. I think robots would be better off with Mars than Earth, to be honest. So they don't need us. They don't care. They're
But
just
also,
out.
couldn't aliens be as bad as us because they have the same selfish motivation, but
Not
just for their
necessarily.
species?
Depends. It depends.
Maybe
It's a possibility.
because they're organic.
It depends, but it depends on their overall evolution, and it depends on
And
their
their genetic
population
makeup.
and their genetic makeup, but also their
Wow.
population size. Because a small population doesn't need a lot of natural resources necessarily, and they also probably, as a smaller population, would be more interested in preserving their species. And so, because as
And see, all
intelligent
species are trying to preserve themselves. So
well, think about it. One that is capable of tools like us, an intelligent species capable of tools like us. If they're small in number, then they'll try to preserve ourselves. Think about all the things that early humans basically did to preserve the species. We came up with
Kill
rules,
mammoths.
laws, societies. We came up with rules, laws, societies.
Oh.
We innovated technology. We literally shaped the world to suit us, to make it more hospitable to us because we're so damn weak. We literally had to change the entire world to be more hospitable to us and to make everything. We cheated. We're not supposed to be apex predators. We cheated. We don't have fangs, wings, or claws, and we
Wow.
cheated, and we made everything on this planet bend to our will. Everything runs from us, essentially. So we became the boogeyman of our own planet. I have no reason not to believe that we're not the boogeyman of the galaxy. Humans.
All right, Mike brings a good point. Mike brings a good point in the chat, which is: are the aliens Vulcans or Romulans?
both.
Wow, they, Audrey.
We would destroy the I hate to break it to you, like Romina, you're the Trekkie here and everything. We would freaking crush both the Vulcans and the Romulans because we're savages.
Potentially.
Like,
I mean, if
disagrees.
it's you and I, then potentially yes.
Human
would argue
beings
there
at
are
scale,
some-
the numbers. Human beings have the numbers.
Oh,
compared.
numbers. Okay, right.
We have
yeah,
the numbers. We have the
But
numbers,
because
and we're
they
savages.
focused on quality versus
Yes.
quantity, whereas we focused on.
So we just overrun them for the horde. We are the horde. You realize that in the galaxy, we would be the horde. We would be the invading species that breeds like bunny rabbits, that cannot be contained, that spreads from planet to planet. That would be us.
Here's the thing, though: the
Like a
Vulcans,
damn virus.
the Vulcans would not make contact with us unless they saw that we were an intelligent species. So they wouldn't even deal with us. I mean, that is according to Star Trek: The First Contact film. Like, they wouldn't even deal with us if it was not.
Oh, you're citing your sources.
Yeah, of course I'm citing my sources. I don't want people to think that I'm just talking out of thin air. Like, there's there's a purpose to all of this. Yeah, resistance is futile. Absolutely.
Yes, humans are the
We
galaxy's
are
version
bacteria.
of human beings are the
No,
galaxy.
not
We're the
bacteria.
extragalactic version of COVID-19.
No.
Oh
I
my
would
God.
I would say not bacteria. What
That was
chef?
the conclusion of this podcast.
We are a parasite, not bacteria. Bacteria is different. Parasite.
We are, from the Earth's point of view, probably a fucking parasite.
parasite.
Yeah.
Parasite on the rock.
We are a parasitic colony. And because Earth is a living being, so we are.
But you know what? I think
because we damn sure ain't a symbiote. We ain't made the Earth better.
no. I think it comes. I think it
We ain't
comes.
Venom.
I think it's part of it. I think it goes with it. Like I said earlier, there's a little bit of chaos in there, and it has to do with that. It's kind of like the parasite that takes over the ants and turns them into zombie ants. You guys know about those, the zombie ants? It basically makes
What?
Yeah, it makes the ant kill itself. Essentially, and it. Anyway, there's we can talk about it if you want. If you guys want to talk about zombie ants, we can talk about entomology next
I
week.
watched
Oh
this
my
whole
God.
YouTube channel. It was this Canadian fire ants YouTube channel and everything like that. It was this whole obsession of mine watching this channel. It's like you could just watch it for hours and hours and everything like that. It's morbid as hell though. The ants are savages. If they ever get to the size of dogs, you kill them with fire. You don't hesitate. You just
All right. Well, if you are listening in if
That's
you're
my
still
worst nightmare
tuned
now.
in,
An
if you're still
ant-like
tuned
alien
in,
species.
That
all
sounds
right, if
terrible.
you're still tuned in, then leave us a comment. Leave us a comment, either if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're leaving us a spectacular 5-star review on whatever platform you decide to listen to this podcast. Leave us a comment in your review and let us know, what would you choose? Human, robots, or aliens? I think that for now, we should probably wrap this up. Roberto, if you've got an outro in mind.
Romina, you didn't tell us who you think is the worst.
I think. Well, I can't say aliens because aliens are my people.
Bias.
And robots are my pet. So
Or are they?
I'm gonna have to go with, out of these three, I have to go with humans.
You didn't want to.
I still don't want to, but it's the only. It's literally. I can't speak for the aliens because I don't have enough data. I don't. There's insufficient data, and I
But
can't.
you are data.
Wow. All right. Thank you for that. Aw, what chef in the chat says, what chef in the chat says, this has been my background audio while working from home. Thanks, guys.
Oh,
You're very
that's
welcome.
dope. I like that. Are you guys enjoying these insane little podcasts? I mean, I honestly want to know if you're just humoring us or you guys are having fun here.
Someone goes, robots can't get corona.
They're just they're giving us gold stars right now.
us. This was the plan.
Yeah, I mean,
Look,
they're okay. If we're talking about who,
What if robots one day like make a virus to just wipe out all the humans?
That's the most likely thing they would do versus go to war with us. And
it'd be easy. They won't have to destroy anything. They could literally just
Audrey, have you seen The Matrix?
Yes.
But no, if you watch the Animatrix and you look at the lore of the Matrix, we went to war with the humans.
Okay, we're not going to go into the lore of the Matrix.
But it's relevant to this because the thing is, we had this all-out, drag-out war that was stupid when really they could have just engineered a retrovirus to kill only us, and then they could have, if they needed batteries, it would have been simpler to deal with every other living thing that has bioelectricity that doesn't have free will. Using us as batteries is stupid. There's so many other species on this planet that would make more effective batteries that would offer no resistance that they could clone. And so the thing is just engineering a virus to kill all of us and then using pigs or cows as clone fodder for bioelectricity for batteries because we were stupid enough to scorch the sky makes more sense. We wouldn't even gotten to the point of scorching the sky, and they would have just been solar powered forever because we would have been screwed by the damn virus and either died or left the earth.
So what are we going to talk about next week? Insects? Bugs? Are we talking about entomology next week? What's happening?
I mean,
wow,
it's either
Audrey
that
doesn't.
I know how in depth you can go into that.
It's
That's
either
why I made
that.
that
It's either that or the. It's either that or the best version of the apocalypse.
Oh my god.
Okay, best version of the apocalypse. That's what's happening.
Best version of the
that.
apocalypse.
And it is zombie ants.
And it is zombie ants. I will talk about zombie ants next week.
Okay.
It is going to happen.
Best version of the apocalypse it is.
Wait,
which
best
again,
or worst?
But well,
that's
that's a matter of
worst.
a point. But that's a point of view. That's a point of view. Again, I still blame Dan and Sam and Dean Winchester for all of our problems right now. I'm sure those two SOBs opened a hellmouth somewhere. And for those of you who haven't watched Supernatural, watch Supernatural on the CW or on Netflix because like you'll get the bit here. But it's like, yeah, those two SOBs. It's like, I mean, they either opened up a hellmouth or Buffy fell down on the job. Something's up. Because, I mean, 2020 has been, like, just not fantastic. It's not. Just all the bad things. All the bad things. How many plagues are we up to?
200?
Like, how many plagues are we up to?
Remember how many plagues there have been.
It's like, geez, I'm like, man, I don't even need to commission all those doomsday devices anymore.
Wow. All right. Roberto, do you have an outro yet? Or are you
Oh, you noticed my play to stall.
Yeah. It's only been 20 minutes of stalling. It's fine.
Okay.
Keep stalling.
Okay, I got it. Are we doing it? We right?
Yeah, it is up to you, man.
Okay. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing and I try to not claw out my eyeballs. This has been filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Thank you for your audience participation. Please tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or rather 8:15 p.m. Roberto Standard Time, whichever one we're doing, and enjoy the program. Please listen to us everywhere that podcast can be listened to, including Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, and, of course, the other apps such as Stitcher Radio. This has been No Assembly Required with your host, Romina with the main, Simba, Romina Ma. No, I botched that somehow, but it's okay. And, of course, Audrey, our pop culture intern, Ember, and your other host. I was about to say horse. I don't know why.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. Your final host, the Dark Lord of the Internet, eye patch and all, Roberto Blake. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast. No audience members were harmed in the filming of this podcast, only the feelings of my co-host and probably my right eyeball. Thank you for listening. NARP.